Good morning. It is January 10th, 2013. This is Jason Horak reporting on the Dodge Daytona electric vehicle. As you can see, the motor has been reinstalled. This is the new NetGain Warp 9 that was rebuilt by Warfield Motors and shipped back to me about a month ago now, maybe a little more. And I just haven't had time to go through the effort of putting it in, and I knew it was going to be a difficult process, mainly due to the awkwardness of installing the motor from underneath without having a lift or anything. So I ended up having to use a standard floor jack to hoist it up in there while I was working on, or while I was kind of crawling around on the floor here. It's been cold and it's the middle of winter here, so just the whole process didn't seem all that much fun. So I haven't really been dealing with it, but I really wanted to get the motor put back in and get this car back on the road. So as you can see, I do not have any kind of shielding on the motor at this particular moment. You know, it's open to the elements, just like it was originally. And I do want to get some kind of piece of corrugated plastic or something to put down here just to kind of cover the whole underside here so that debris and rocks and slush from the road and so forth doesn't get up in there in the motor. But for now I'm just going to take it real easy and make sure that I avoid mud puddles and so forth. So anyway, the motor installation is pretty much exactly as it used to be. Same adapter plate, same tail shaft support. Get the camera up and under there. Yeah, so you can just stock motor mount on the aluminum plate there. It just kind of supports the tail shaft of the motor. We've got the RPM sensor right there, and you know, everything's just pretty much exactly as it was before. You'll note that the interconnect cable is orange instead of having the shielding, the gray shielding stuff on it. I kind of did that on purpose because the old one had gotten so hot when the motor overheated that it sort of melted the gray shielding stuff. And my theory is that the heat will dissipate better on that little cable if it doesn't have all that extra plastic around it. It's in a very safe location. There's nothing that's going to rub on it at this point. So I'm going to leave it exposed as just the orange piece at this, or the orange covering at this point. And yeah, we'll just see how well that works. But I doubt that had anything to do with the motor overheating. I think it was just kind of a byproduct of the motor getting so hot that it ended up kind of melting the plastic of that. So anyway, so the transmission adapter plate, you know, same as before. So the only difference there actually is inside. I now have the aluminum flywheel, which I had a buddy at work was able to drill out the bolt that I broke off in it, and so that's pretty cool. And so that is all in there, and we'll see if it makes a difference when I go to drive the car. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to give you a quick preview what it looked like underneath here before I get it down off the lift, off the little ramps here. And then I'll be back and we'll take a look under the hood and in the trunk and all that fun stuff. Be right back. Okie dokie. So as you can see, everything is back together as per normal operating conditions. I put the plexiglass back on the front battery box. The motor's down there where it should be. All is well there. I also have put the board back in the trunk, covering up the rear battery box. So as you can see, there's a whole lot of, you know, no batteries being exposed anywhere. And my trunk space is usable for groceries and so forth. Yeah, so we're sitting at 206.8 volts. This is after charging it and letting it sit a while. basically 210 I've considered fully charged, and then I drove it a little bit up and down the ramps and ran the heater a bit today. So it's not quite topped off, but it's pretty darn close, and we'll just call it good enough. I've reset the JLD, because wow, did the JLD get confused with my whole running the heater, running the motor at really low current, and everything. Basically, it was saying that my batteries were charged to 260 amp hours or some such thing, which obviously they're not, because they would swell and explode at that point and turn into little blobs of plastic. But anyway, so I reset it. We're back to 0, which is generally how I run it. Is 0 is fully charged, just because that way it's easier rather than trying to keep the meter calibrated at completely empty. So that way I just go to negative 180 or so, and that's it. So anyway, so here we are. We're all set to go. I'm going to get the garage door open, close things up, and let's go for a drive. Woohoo! Alrighty then, so here we go. We are all loaded up in the car and ready to go on our first drive in the last several months with this car. So this will be the first time it's actually been out of the garage since October of last year, so that's pretty exciting. Alright, just to check on mileage, we're at 165,451, and again on the JLD we're going to reset, so we're at 0, everything, and 206.3. So normally I have all this stuff turned on already, but just for the sake of fun, we're going to turn on the salt on 1. You hear the click, and we're ready to drive. And I'm probably not going to use the power steering and power brakes and everything, because they're not really necessary. So we'll just call that good. Alright, put her in gear, and try not to hit anything back into the garage. Now my rear brakes are making a little bit of noise, mostly because they haven't been running a long time, and they're all rusted and old and so forth. So, but there you go. So far so good. I managed to accelerate to 17 miles an hour, and nothing blew up yet. Yay! So anyway, I'm headed to the store, just kind of on an errand. I want to go get some more Pennzoil synchro mesh for my transmission. It does have about a half a quart in here, but the transmission takes more than that, and I want to top it off before we do anything serious driving. As you can see, the roads are slushy and miserable. There's mud puddles everywhere. But that's kind of central New York in a nutshell. So, but really they're relatively clear. We've had some nice warm days that have kind of dried things out pretty good. Alright, now I am in second gear. Try not to get plastered by a log truck, that'd be fun. Oh, and an ambulance. Lovely. Okay, so we're in second gear, and I'm not holding the clutch in because I don't have to, even though we're on a little bit of an incline. So I'm just holding in the brake, and as soon as I can find a... oh, wait, maybe that's my opening. Looking good. Now I do have the controller set to really, really low, because I didn't want to break anything. So the controller is set to the 350 amp maximum to go to the motor, and 170 volt maximum. So that's basically how I drove the car the first year, well, 6 months anyway, out of it, because I wasn't sure what the settings needed to be, and I just kind of picked those at random, and you know, the car drove pretty well. It doesn't have quite the pickup that it does when it's at 500 or 750 amps going to the motor, but it's a good gently breaking it in test. So that's kind of the plan at this point. I did run the motor quite a lot actually over the last few weeks. I just go out to the garage, turn it on, let it idle at 2,500 RPMs, and then just let it go for 16 hours at a stretch. You know, and then I come out and turn the charger on and let it fill the pack back up and rinse and repeat. So these brushes have, I'm guessing, around 60 hours of burn-in time, which is sufficient, I think. Any more than that is kind of ridiculous, but so they're about as burn-in as they're going to get. Obviously, I'm driving now, so. But yeah, so the car does seem to work. I'm going to have to crank that amperage back up to 500 because this 350 thing is really slow. Feels like I'm I don't know, driving a 3-cylinder car or something. But at 500 it'll squeal the tires in second gear, so that's pretty cool. Or at least it did with the old brushes. Anyway, I'm almost to AutoZone already, so that's pretty exciting. I'm going to go grab some oil, and we'll take it up from there. Take care, and see y'all later. Well, the lighting in here isn't really ideal for the camera, but we're at 198.6. That's where the battery is settled after this little drive to AutoZone, and that's about right after the surface charge has been bled off and so forth. So anyway, we put 2.70 amp hours were consumed, and the camera isn't making it out real well due to the lighting, but that's alright. In 11 minutes, yay. So what I'm going to do is actually leave this on the amps. We're pulling about 1 amp now, just with the DC to DC converter running and the soliton on. So I'm not sure if that's going to even show up on the camera, but I will call out the amps as we use them, just because I wanted to get a feel for how many amps we're burning with these new brushes and the new motor, just in some average daily driving. First, not to run over this guy. Lady, sorry. Alright. So what's interesting is it's set to 350 amps for the max current on the motor. The car behaves much more like it did originally, as far as you really need to use first gear, first, second, right up on through. Let's wait on traffic here. But it'll accelerate pretty decently, although, not super fast. So up to 23 miles an hour-ish in first gear, and then the second. So, certainly not as peppy as it was before with things cranked up, but I can deal as long as it makes my motor work for longer than 2 weeks. I'll be happy. Ooh, now that's cool. See, that's a generator on the back of that trailer. That's what I want. I want to pull one of those behind my car and recharge it as I go. It's extremely huge and I'm guessing heavy, but oh, that is neat. I want one. Wonder how much power that thing puts out. It's nice and boxy, probably lots of drag. So, fun, fun, fun. Oh, sorry, on hard acceleration there, it was pulling 185 amps out of the battery pack. Not really sure what the motor was seeing at this point, because I don't have my laptop hooked up to the Soliton, but here's a more modest acceleration. Second gear, oh, okay, really kind of slow actually. 130, 140, 180, 190, 235, 40 miles an hour in second gear. Third gear, 40 miles an hour, 42. So, you know, it's not doing too bad. So kind of try to hold it here at 42. Looks like it's about 37 amps. That was in the third gear. So definitely a lot more shifting with the controller kind of cranked down here, and the batteries being, or the brushes rather being new. So just try to preserve that motor and get it all burnt in properly. So anyway, I'm going to stop by at the house and put some more transmission fluid. It's actually oil, the Pennzoil Synchro Mesh that I just bought in there, just so that when I'm doing some crazy stuff on the highway, I'm not going to be causing excess strain on the motor due to the transmission not spinning freely. So anyway, that is the plan, and I will come back when we're about to go do something more exciting. So take care, I'll talk to y'all later. Okay, so I got the car all filled up with Pennzoil Synchro Mesh transmission fluid. It took about a quart to top off the transmission, which makes sense since we drained so much of it out of the drive shaft when I was changing the motor. So now it has all fresh transmission fluid in there, and we're ready to go. I also took a look at the Soliton settings again on the laptop here, and realized that I had set the max motor current to 350, which is actually what I said earlier in the video, but what I meant was that I was going to do the max battery current, because that's what I had adjusted before, and the motor always used to run exactly at 1,000 amps. Is how I had it set pretty much since day one on this particular setup. So setting the max motor current at 350 is actually really hamstringing it quite a lot, which explains why the acceleration was so poor. Anyway, so I made some adjustments, and I just wanted to show you basically what I've got it set to at the moment, which is max battery current is at 500. The max motor voltage is at 170, which is the NetGain spec, and the max motor current is set to 500 now, as opposed to 350. Whereas the max motor power is set to 100 kilowatts, which that's kind of a multiplication of the voltage and the current. And if you take 170 and multiply it by 500, it's about 85 kilowatts. So that isn't the limit that it's going to hit first. It's really going to hit the max motor current, I think. Since the battery pack is sitting at about 200 volts, we should be good. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and give this a try now. And again, 500 is half of what I used to run the motor at, so it's definitely not going to be as peppy as what I'm used to, but it should be significantly better than what we just experienced. So we're going to go ahead and give this a try. Kind of tricky backing down my driveway with all the snow. Just gonna go ahead and give it a run down the street. So, first gear. Oh yeah, that's much nicer. Now we're feeling more like it should. And with it limited to 500, you know, that's still half of what the controller can output, and it still seems pretty peppy to me. So we're going to start off in second gear here from this little yield type deal. Go back up through the slush pools, and yeah, it's significantly better. I could drive this every day just like this. Definitely not drag race type time, but good enough. So go ahead and try to get up on the road here. We can get some speed going. And again, we're in second gear, waiting on big trucks and traffic. Always fun. So, decent acceleration. Not, again, we're not speed racer time here, but I could live with that. At least for the time being, until we get the brushes burnt in, or seated nice and solidly. But yeah, this is doable. So we'll go ahead and push our luck, because hey, that's what I'm all about. And we'll take the car up on the highway and see what we get for a top speed with these settings and so forth. Because hey, you know, taking it easy doesn't necessarily mean taking it super easy. So we're idling along here about 2,000 RPMs. 2,000 to 2,500, just kind of as I'm cruising. And so we're pulling about 100 amps out of the battery pack. Kind of depends on the hills and so forth, so that's always challenging. But and just for extra fun, get the Soliton data logger going here on the laptop. So it looks like it's going to be impossible to make out on the camera, so I'll just read it off. But so we're showing a pack voltage of 191 is what the Soliton is seeing, 190 now, and throttle yes. So it's 228 amps is what the motor is seeing at this point, which does seem a little bit high considering we're only going 48 miles an hour. So an RPM of about 2,500. So yeah, anyway, that's where we're at, and we'll go ahead and hop on the highway here and just kind of, maybe I won't push it up to its top speed, but I will at least get it up there to highway speeds and see where we're at. So we're pulling, the motor's seeing 400 amps currently. 300 and about 300 now as we get accelerating on the on-ramp. Again, we're still in fourth gear. The motor's getting a pretty steady dose of 200 to 300 amps. Doing 60 miles an hour. Accelerating on the on-ramp. About 400 amps is what we got up to there on the Soliton for the motor. 70 miles an hour. Again, still in fourth gear. About 4,000 RPMs, give or take. Well, 3,800 really. So the motor is seeing a pretty consistent 350 amps at this point. We're going to shift up to fifth gear. If it'll allow me to go into fifth gear. Sometimes it's a little tricky on this car. Come on, fifth gear, you want it. There it is. Alright. So we're doing about 468 amps on the motor, 72 miles an hour on the highway. 77. let off on it a bit, coast. So the motor is spinning at 2,700 RPM, and yeah, we're definitely giving the motor a good workout, I think. This is kind of a typical sort of thing. You know, we're cruising along at about 72 at the moment. And, yeah, about 400 amps is what's, going to the motor. Coming from the battery pack, we're hovering around 150 to 200, which again is very typical from what I've seen. 76 miles an hour going up a hill. 77, going uphill. We got kind of the pedal's pretty much on the floor. The motor's seeing about 480 amps, according to the laptop there. 75 miles an hour. 270 amps coming out of the battery pack. So, you know, again, keeping up with traffic without a problem. Speed limit here is 65 miles an hour, but most traffic goes about 75. So as long as I can do 75, I'm happy. Or, you know, when I'm stuck behind a truck in a trailer of some sort, that's always fun. But yeah, I think that's definitely a good first test for the car. And the brushes and the new motor. Seems to work. So we're going to go ahead and I'll be swinging around and coming back the other way on the highway. I'm going to leave all the settings as they are, just because I don't want to stress it any more than necessary here. And we'll go from there. So anyway, take care. I'll catch up with you all later. And just for a little fun on the return trip, let's see what we can do for a little top speed action here. Some traffic that'll probably be in my way, but we'll see what happens. So we're going up a hill, accelerating in 5th gear. Pretty much topping out at 80, going up the hill. Favorite little off-ramp. There's a big, long, pretty flat. I mean, it does go uphill a little bit here. So there we go, 88 miles an hour. We're going back to the future. So, it looks like about 88, 90 miles an hour seems to be the top speed with these settings. I know the car does well over 100 when it's set to the 1000 amp max and so forth, but anyway, just kind of a fun little experiment to see what she can do. And you know, I've been data logging this whole time, so I'll be able to analyze that and kind of see where we're at for how many amps the motor was seeing, which again, it was limited to 500, which seems to top out at 400 and something. I don't know, 460. Squeeze go again. So, anyway, gotta go to work now, so I will catch up with y'all later, and have a wonderful day. Take care.